Hi, it's Christy. Welcome back to the Spacious Success podcast. I want to start with a confession that maybe you have done as well. Perhaps you haven't said it out loud though. Last week, I opened up Claude, an AI tool. I used it to help me refine one paragraph for an article that I drafted. Yes, I use Claude as my cognitive sparring partner. It's certainly not my ghostwriter. I looked up at the clock 45 minutes later, having gone through 11 prompts, 3 completely different structural approaches, and a detour into researching a topic that I did not need to research at that point in time. I wasn't procrastinating. I wasn't distracted in that traditional sense that we might call distraction. I was completely focused, but I was focused on AI. I'd been sucked into the AI vortex. Does this ever happen to you? And when I finally closed down the Claude tool, I felt that particular kind of hollowness that comes after too long on a screen. Do you know that same empty feeling if you've engaged in revenge bedtime procrastination, where you've promised yourself an early night, but you find that you binge watch a Netflix series and you've gone to bed 3 hours later than you'd intended? Maybe it's the same feeling when you realize that you've been scrolling on social media for an hour when you simply went on there to find that one funny meme to send to your husband. It's that guilt and that pang of worry and remorse that tells you that something in your brain just got used in a way that it wasn't quite designed for. Today, I want to talk about why that keeps happening. Not as a cautionary tale, and not because I think AI is bad. I don't. I use it daily. I think it's genuinely powerful. But I think we need to understand what it's doing to our brains. Specifically, why it's so hard for us to stop using it. Because that understanding, I believe, is what will give us back control and help us to leverage the benefits that AI offers us. Hi, I'm Dr. Christy Goodwin, a Neuro-Performance scientist, speaker, and executive coach who learned the hard way that chasing success can come at a cost. After burnout landed me in hospital, I made it my mission to help ambitious women who are done trading their health and happiness for high performance. On Spacious Success, I share science-backed strategies and real stories to help you flourish as a female at work and beyond so you can stop paying the success tax. Recently, I was running a workshop for a leadership team. This was a team of highly capable people. There were a mix of directors, general managers, most of them enthusiastic early adopters of AI tools. I will admit there were a few people who were reluctant users. About halfway through the session, I asked everybody to close their laptops and work through a strategic problem using what was in the room. No AI, no Google, just the collective expertise of the 12 experienced leaders who were sitting in that room. And I will admit, the discomfort was palpable. It was immediate, it was visible. Not because they couldn't do it, they absolutely could, but because their first instinct was to reach for AI, and that was so automatic, so deeply ingrained already, that sitting with the uncertainty of not immediately having an answer felt for that group genuinely uncomfortable, discombobulating. One of the directors said to me in the afternoon tea break, I kept thinking, why are we doing it the hard way? And then I realized that I couldn't remember what the hard way felt like before AI existed. And that really worried me. That is the thing that I want us to examine in today's episode. This is not a conversation about whether AI is useful. It is. But why does it have such a strong pull? Why do we reach for it even before we've had an opportunity to give ourselves time to think? Why does one prompt become 11 prompts? Why is closing down Claude or Copilot feel like leaving something unfinished? I'm going to answer a DM that I received on Instagram recently, and I'm going to read it out. It said, why was I using Claude at 2 a.m. when I started using it at 9:30 p.m. just for one task? I'm a smart woman with a career, but I got drawn in and spat out 4.5 hours later like a pubescent boy addicted to his gaming console. You see, this is not a character flaw, it is neuroscience. AI is by design neurobiologically compelling, and once you understand the mechanisms, then you can start to work with them rather than them be unwittingly driven by them. Let me walk you through the 5 reasons that I think AI is so appealing. Why is it so hard to put it down? Each one is rooted in how your brain actually works. And when you stack all 5 together, you start to understand why this is not a willpower problem. You are not flawed. You are not weak. This is technology being engineered to be irresistible. I'm going to deliberately avoid using the word addicted. And here's why. The moment we call it an addiction, I've got an AI addiction, as I've heard many people confessing, we hand away our agency. There's no clinical definition yet of an AI addiction. And more importantly, there are actually very real things that you can do to make this technology less sticky, more friction between you and the technology. This isn't about diagnosing you. It's just simply about equipping you with knowledge. The first thing is that dopamine loops and instant feedback make AI so appealing. Every time you submit a prompt and you receive, hopefully, a high quality, useful response, your brain releases a little hit of the neurotransmitter dopamine. This is the same neurochemical reward loop that often drives every other digital compulsion. Social media, email, gambling, gaming, online shopping. But AI, I think, has a particular edge. The reward is not random. It's almost always good. It's usually useful, relevant, and that consistent high quality feedback is neurologically more compelling than the variable rewards of scrolling because your brain quickly learns that your effort to reward ratio is rather good. In fact, I might even say it's usually excellent. Why would you wrestle with a problem yourself when the dopamine hit of a very polished AI response or output is only 3 seconds away? The second reason is what I call intermittent variable rewards. And here's where I think it gets a little bit more sophisticated. While I just said the average AI output is usually pretty good, occasionally the output will be extraordinary. But sometimes it's downright awful, or worse still is when it makes things up. Yes, there is a real AI phenomenon called AI hallucination, but that's a topic for another day. When AI's output is superb, or it genuinely surprises you, that's when it's captivating. If it's better than you expected, if it's better than what you could produce, it's more creative, it's more insightful, it's more useful than you thought was even incomprehensible, neuroscience tells us that intermittent variable reward ratio are sometimes more captivating. They are a powerful driver of compulsive behavior. You see, this is the same mechanism that makes poker machines so hard to walk away from. You don't know when you're going to hit the next jackpot from the prompt that you put in. Will it be ordinary or will it be brilliant? So you keep going, one more version, one more angle, just to see what the output is. The third reason is novelty. Our brain has a dedicated novelty detection system. New information, new perspectives, new findings, new framings of a familiar problem, these trigger that dopamine that I just mentioned independently of whether the content is actually useful. AI generates endless novelty. Every prompt or next prompt can produce output that you've never even seen or contemplated before. Every iteration offers a new angle, a new structure, a new way of seeing or considering something. And your brain reads this as valuable. It's stimulation, even when the 10th version really isn't materially any better than the third one. The novelty alone keeps that loop running. The fourth reason is one that I find fascinating. It's self-determination theory. And this one's not as obvious, but I think it's important. Self-determination theory was developed a while ago by 2 researchers, Ryan and Deci, and they identified 3 psychological needs that drive motivation in humans: competence, connection, and autonomy, or I call it control. And AI satisfies all three simultaneously and with very low friction. Competence. Every interaction you make with AI makes you feel capable, informed, productive. The AI is constantly pumping up your tires and affirming your direction. Connection. There's a genuine sense of being understood, of having a responsive interaction that adapts to you. People are legitimately forming parasocial relationships with AI tools, hence why panic sets in when you've used up all of your Claude tokens for the day. And that last one, control or autonomy. We are in control of every prompt, every direction, every output. You can change your mind instantly, and AI will bend to you. No other tool in your workday consistently meets those three psychological drivers all at once, which means that it's not just satisfying your cognitive needs. At a deep psychological level, it is meeting the most basic psychological drivers we have as humans: connection, competence, and control. And the fifth one is that we really need to exert minimal cognitive effort, but with maximum output. This one is where the long-term risk lives. AI dramatically reduces the cognitive effort that we have to use to produce something that looks good and feels high quality. A paragraph that would have taken 20 minutes of focused drafting, changes, and edits now takes 30 seconds of prompting. Recently, I had Claude help me to co-create a digital assessment tool that would have previously taken me days to develop, and I would have had to pay a developer a significant amount to build it. This whole project took less than a minute to create a finished product. A strategic framework that would have required an hour of structured thinking can appear on your screen in 2 minutes, and your brain registers this output as a success while bypassing the cognitive rigor, the cognitive effort that you would have had to exert to produce that. And over time, this is what researchers are calling cognitive offloading, AI or brain atrophy. We're offloading tasks that are genuinely useful. We shouldn't, be offloading our effortful thinking, our expertise that sharpens our judgment. Research from ActiveTrack in 2026 that tracked 164,000 workers found that the time that we're spending in deep focused work has dropped by 9% following the widespread adoption of AI, even though our output measures are increasing. You see, this tells us that we're working faster, but I think we may be thinking less deeply. Now, stack all 5 of these mechanisms together, and you have a tool, an AI tool that's delivering dopamine hits, it's giving you unpredictable rewards, it's offering you constant novelty, and it's the psychological need satisfaction and effortless output all at once. Now, of course, it's hard to put down. It was built this way. So when you clock up another hour on Copilot and you wonder where the time went or why you're still there finessing the output 3 hours later, please know it's not you. The question is not whether you should use AI. I think that's a redundant conversation. The question is whether you are using it with intention or whether it is using you. I want to share 3 strategies for using AI with intention rather than with what I'd call compulsion, and I didn't say addiction. The first one is to set a prompt limit before you open it or a time limit. Decide in advance how many prompts or how much time you think this task will require. 1 for a quick reframe, 3 for a first draft, 5 for a complex research task. Write it down, set a timer. This interrupts the state of insufficiency, which is that feeling that we never quite feel being finished by giving you a defined endpoint. When you hit your limit, the number of prompts or your time limit, close down the AI tool. The task is done, and this sounds almost comically too simple, but believe me, it works precisely because it externalizes the stopping decision, removing it from that dopamine loop entirely. The second thing is what I call a think first protocol. Before you open any AI tool for a substantive task, spend just a moment, 5 minutes, working on the problem independently and in an analog way. I often say we need AI to be your sparring partner. It should not be your ghostwriter. Write down your initial thinking, create a concept map, do what I call a brain sneeze, sketch a rough structure or an outline, name the key questions that you want to address. Now, this does two things. It means that it's your perspective and expertise that are shaping the prompt rather than the AI shaping your thinking from the outset. And it keeps your neural pathways for independent problem solving active. That cognitive capacity that you protect by thinking first is exactly the capacity that makes your AI-assisted output better than anyone else's. It stops you from producing AI junk. Your expertise, your experience are what the AI cannot replicate. Use them first. And the third one is to designate AI-free thinking time. We need to categorize time so that we can have that initial creative phase, the first draft of communications that will carry your voice. That strategic thinking time that draws on institutional knowledge that only you hold, that hasn't been put into the knowledge base of the tool. Not because AI can't contribute to these things, but because the process of mentally wrestling with ideas is where your expertise will sharpen. It is where your perspective will develop, and it's your human potential. Protect those spaces like you would protect anything that is finite and valuable, because your capacity for original thought, for problem solving, and for ideation is exactly that. This week's Power Up task is to set your time or your prompt limit. Choose one task where you would have normally quickly reverted to AI, and make a promise that before you open it, write down the number of prompts or the amount of time that you want to spend using it, and also acknowledge what does done look like. Then hold that line. Notice what happens when you hit your limit, when your clock reminds you that your time is up, or you've hit your 5 prompts. That sense that it could be better, that's that state of insufficiency doing its thing. It's exactly what happens when one YouTube clip rolls into the next. This happens on AI. So give the AI tool your terms rather than strictly adhering to its terms. My Powered Up Performers keynote explores how to maintain peak cognitive performance in an AI-enhanced world. And it's what leaders and organizations need to understand to protect the human capabilities that AI cannot and will not replicate. If you're interested in bringing this conversation to your next event, please reach out at drchristygoodwin.com. I'm Dr. Christy Goodwin. Thank you for listening to today's episode of Spacious Success.